Hi, welcome to your next tech startup. Today is a now hiring episode, which we are focusing on a US remote lead engineering role with Thrizer. And we are interviewing the CEO, Raunak Sharma. This is a great role if these three things are true about you. First, you want to make mental health services more accessible. Second, you have around a decade of experience as a software engineer, and your strengths lie in full stack development and infrastructure. Third, you're fluent in TypeScript, Node, and Docker. I know lots of engineers can learn things very quickly, but these are things that need to be managed day one. And so we're really looking for somebody who has all of those strengths, is excited about the mission. And let's dig into things. So, a few years after graduating college, you decided to found Thrizer. Tell me about how that came to be.
Yeah, of course. So me, like kind of any everyone on our team has each had a unique journey or experience in the world of mental health, whether that means kind of our own journeys or someone close to us. So me specifically, I've had an intimate experience with kind of the entire mental health care system. And at the time, I was in college and kind of exploring different therapists. And one thing I always noticed is that there was just so many therapists that didn't accept insurance. And I was,
Oh,
kind of a typical college kid, didn't have a ton of money or anything. So it was always this weird thing of like, why can I never find a therapist that accepts my insurance that also, that I vibe with, that works well with me. And kind of through the years, I noticed that trend. And as I explored more, I noticed, that there's a kind of another side to the story of therapists not really getting paid well by insurances, having to go through a lot of admin work to even accept insurance. So there's really this big disconnect. And from there, I said, this is a really cool problem to try to take on. And then it really became about, okay, like how can we make it work between people who want to use their insurance benefits for therapy and then therapists who kind of want to be paid what they're worth and what they should be valued at. And so the way we've been bridging that gap is via out of network benefits, which most insurance plans have. It's a way for therapists to charge their full rate upfront and for the individuals to save as much on net session costs as possible via the out of network benefits. The existing process is super manual, archaic, hard to understand. And the goal of Thrizer was really to make that as transparent and quick as possible for you to receive insurance reimbursements and not have to float a bunch of costs and spend a bunch of hours on the phone with your insurance company.
is your user base the patient or the provider?
Yeah, I'd say day to day, our main user base is the providers. We're essentially a part of their workflow or their tech stack, and we kind of serve as a payment processor for them. So we serve the same purpose for therapists as Stripe, Square, PayPal. We're really a way for them to load their clients in and charge their patients for appointments while also billing their insurance out of network.
Amazing. Yeah, I have never even considered
Yeah.
trying to get out of network therapists. Like I was just like, all right, fine. That's what I have to pay.
Right.
So I think this is just such like an amazing opportunity, especially with like I feel like every year mental health is becoming more and more of an acknowledged challenge. I don't think social media is helping,
Yeah.
but let's move on with things. So, one of the things that makes Thrizer pretty unique is that you are bootstrapped. All of your growth is based off of revenue, and you have no intention of getting VC funding. So, tell me a bit about kind of when you were founding and your journey, why you've chosen that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think if you look at like during the COVID era, there were a lot of mental health companies that sprung up, and most of them were
Yeah.
VC backed. And kind of a few years after that, you see, some of the companies still sticking around, but a lot of them going under. And it's
Right.
it's a delicate balance because we're very mission based. We're here to support therapists,
Mhm.
and we felt like the best way to do that was not just keep our prices as low as possible, be really niche with what features we offer. And those goals sometimes don't align with what VCs or other investors have in mind in terms of rapid growth, profitability, and kind of expanding your market and things like that. So we felt like staying bootstrapped was the best way to keep our values intact and kind of grow and expand in the ways that we wanted to.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Um, and so let's kind of dive into the role. Um, you are hiring your first in-house engineer,
Yeah.
and up until this point, everything has been built by a kind of like a vendor or contracted engineering team. And so kind of why is now the right time to be bringing in this engineer, and what are some of the interesting kind of problems that they're going to get to solve?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, really, the first phase of the company is going from 0 to 1. We're
Mhm.
trying to, make sure we're solving a real problem. We're adding real value. People are interested in what we are building. And to your point, we used a variety of like offshore devs, contracted devs, and kind of a makeshift team in the process. And now we're in a place where it's like, yes, like we're onto something. It makes
Mhm.
sense to start building an in-house engineer team, especially as we prepare for scale. So some of the things they'd be focused on is really kind of simplifying our architecture and ensuring that, we can handle tens of thousands of users of transactions in a way that promotes a good experience, promotes just usability and user friendliness, and continues to expand on a feature set in a way that's efficient and super valuable to our end users.
And and while this person would be the first engineer on the team, they're not going to be like, just kind of all by themselves.
Yeah,
So what will collaboration and partnership look like for that engineer?
for sure. Yeah. I mean, me and this engineer would work very closely together. I have a very, of course, good idea of the kind of the vision, the product vision for the company and what we need done from a functional standpoint. What are some of the technical challenges we face? And I really see this lead engineer as kind of owning the code base and our infrastructure end to end. So setting the vision, the technical vision that's in line with kind of the product vision, and really eventually building out a team, expanding on the resources that they need to be successful in their role. So we really see them being the lead and kind of starting point of the engineering function at Thrizer.
Okay. This being a lead engineering role at the moment when they'd be coming in, they would be leading an offshore team that's 2.5 people. And then the two of you would partner together over the next few months after they join to figure out if continuing to lead that team makes the most sense, or if another offshore team would be better to work with, maybe someone that they've worked with in the past, or at some point bringing in more US based engineers. Is that right?
Exactly. It's something we would work through together, try to figure out what is the best team for our priorities and go towards that. It's going to be a collaborative decision.
With the focus being full stack plus infrastructure. And I don't know how many engineers I've spoken to, well, and what someone thinks that they're good at, and then what somebody else thinks that somebody could be good at. I get different answers. So so the idea of someone being really good at front end and really good at infrastructure, I don't know how often that engineer exists,
Yeah.
which, could be a great thing to debate. But I know that you're leaning more on like key issues around infrastructure and kind of understanding a bit of that, like why why do you see the infrastructure as more critical than the front end based on kind of the needs of the company?
Yeah, I think that in terms of what needs most immediate work, I would say our back end and our infra are things that are higher priorities. I think an issue we face is having these two roles kind of split out across devs, which at an early stage doesn't necessarily make sense. So it's really about coming in, evaluating as a whole, like how is our system set up? How does data flow? How is it being deployed to our live website? Optimizing that for the current scale with while keeping in mind, yes, we are going to double, triple, quadruple in size over the next couple of years. And just making sure that, balancing speed and quality, like we're getting features out quickly, the code is clean, it's efficient, and at the same time, it's built to scale. We're not going to have to rewrite the entire application in a year.
Mhm.
So, definitely like back end infra heavy. Front end is I would say it's you would need to understand it because of course, end of the day, I think user experience and interface is super important. So it's something that, we're looking that you had some type of familiarity with, but
Right.
especially at first, a lot of the work is back end heavy.
That makes sense. And then let's move on to, the team and some of the values that you have. As we mentioned at the very beginning, someone who wants to make mental health more accessible is important. What are other values and kind of how you work together that make you you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think uniquely we're a global remote team. We
Mhm.
and the overlap we have is we all have some connection to the mission. We're all passionate about mental health, health and wellness, and in some way that's deeper than just like, yes, this is an interest of ours. So
Right.
I think that's a super important quality that binds us all together. And I'd say, all of us are kind of have it like we're willing to roll our sleeves up and get our hands dirty. Like no task is beneath us. We
Right.
understand that there are pros and cons that come with being bootstrapped. So we're scrappy, we're lean, we're resourceful, and we get things done. And I would say those are kind of the defining qualities of our team.
With that being like lean and scrappy, like I think, that you have to like get whatever needs to get done and all of that. And then I know, sometimes I talk to engineers and I'm like, do you have another startup in you? And sometimes that can also mean like crazy hours. I think that when people hear first and only engineer, I think burnout is a legitimate fear.
Hmm.
So, and granted, they're not the only engineer because, like you said, there is a global team. So, kind of how have you and the team managed burnout?
Yeah, and end of the day, we serve in the mental health industry, so we know how important it is. So really, we're super flexible team. It's not like you need to be online at given hours. You need to report. You're not being micromanaged. I mean, there's just a lot of initiative and ownership and accountability that anyone on the team has, and that itself, I think, can take away a lot of the pressure.
Mhm.
That being said, there are high expectations from really anyone joining, given how lean the team is and kind of what our goals are. But no one on the team is here working 80, 100-hour weeks. It's really like, hey, we say this is what we want to get done. Is it feasible without you burning out? And then we see what it takes to make it happen. And it's collaborative and yeah, I mean that being said, it is a role that will have a high expectations and we'll work closely together, but nothing that you're gonna kill yourself over.
And the goal is also like kind of, that this person who's coming on, this isn't like a come hop aboard this startup for 2 to 3 years and then go hop to your next startup.
Yeah.
This the goal is more, I think, of kind of when we think of like, bootstrap grassroots, like you're in it, you're committed. This is something that you can be excited about and commit to long term. Like your ideal person is thinking this is something I'd be happy to do for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, they're not going to be the only engineer for 5 to 10 years. Like we're gonna
Right.
work together. We're gonna figure out what they need to succeed, whether that's more engineers or a bigger in-house team, a global team, whatever is possible. But it's end of the day, it's like this is something that they love. They can see its value in the world, the impact it's making, and they want to commit to it.
I think it's such a incredible opportunity. I am loving working on it for recruiting. So for those who are interested, I am the first person you talk to for right now. And then if you're interested in the role, if you haven't already applied, then I will have in the description a link to apply on LinkedIn. I'm looking through every single applicant and we're managing everything through the LinkedIn portal. So please apply that way. Thank you for coming on and talking about the role.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Isabel. Appreciate it.